So, founded 1988. Interesting opening. What comes to mind here?
Just pinning knight and then dropping
Absolutely.
the bishop back.
So, more active to pin the knight, of course. Yep. Thanks, wasted way for the prime. Okay, so here already you need to put your tactical detector on. Whenever you have a pin...
Yeah, that pawn's now hanging at E5.
Bingo. Exactly. Very good. Okay. And his position spirals out of control. What comes to mind here?
Just development, castling.
So that's one option, but once you have a knight on e5 and bishop on b5, what other thing do you have to consider? Anything catch your eye in terms of that pin? Take a look at his knight on c6. How many attackers do you have on that knight?
I now have 2. Oh, I see. I can win a rook. I take with knight. He takes
Exactly.
the pawn. I take with bishop.
Yeah, technically you win the exchange because he takes back the bishop. So, like, technically it's like only an exchange, but that's not a pretty bad outcome from the opening.
Yeah. We're up on points here.
Yeah. I mean, it's not great to win the exchange by move 9, but, you know, it'll do. All right, now you want to get the hell out of the center, or else he's going to give you a check with his rook on e8.
Yeah, so now I just want to develop.
Yeah. Exactly. Perfect. And now, again, the key is when you win material, your first priority afterwards should be, as you're pointing out, development. It's easy to sort of get low. Whoa. Wait a minute. Your first priority should be to take free shit.
Yeah, after getting that free knight.
Absolutely. With check. Yeah, founded 1988. Oh my god.
Oh, another one.
Oh my goodness. Jesus. Oh. You're just mopping it up. You know, they don't have buffets anymore, but this reminds me of the good old days, and I would go to like the local Indian restaurant for lunch.
Yeah, this is
just
pretty adorable.
Mop up all the curries all in a row.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask, do I take this pawn with check? He takes with queen. Well, if he took with queen, I take with queen. Is it better to take the pawn on d5 or just take the hanging one on h7?
So the d5 pawn is the juicier morsel, but there's a funny... I would take the d5 pawn with the queen. And the reason behind that is a very funny one. If you take with the knight, he goes king up to d6. And all of a sudden, your queen is hanging, and your knight is actually hanging. His queen on a8 is attacking it. So I would play it simple, go for the queen trade. You actually force the queen trade because his bishop is hanging. And remember that, like, I would draw the informal threshold at a rook. If you're a rook up or more, you should be very safe going for an endgame. Like, you know you're going to win that. But we'll take a quick look at this after the game. This knight takes d5 move.
Okay.
Holy shit.
We're
This
really
guy
cooking.
is one of the most selfless opponents I've ever seen.
Ooh, if I delivered check e1 with rook, is that better than
Perfect.
just delivering another one? Okay.
Perfect move. Bringing the pieces into the game. Oh my goodness.
That's mate now, right?
Oh, it actually is. I actually
Yeah.
missed it. I was so attracted by the rook, I didn't see that you could mate him on e7.
Oh no, I immediately recognized that. Yeah.
I don't know if you even need my coaching anymore, Charlie. I think you've graduated to the upper ranks of the Russian School of Chess. You need somebody better qualified. Wow.
Yes, sir.
Holy smokes, what a game. Okay, so just very, very quickly, before you jump in... Actually, why don't you jump into the next one, and then we'll analyze both at once, since you're on a roll.
Sure. All right, let's get another one going.
Yeah. There's just one or two moments in this game. You know, I hate the one letter followed by many numbers. It's never a good sign.
He's smurfing.
How does this guy remember his login? I wonder if, like, his computer is wiped. Okay. 4 knights defense.
Is it best to just castle now or push the pawn to
Thanks,
d3
God, Nug.
or d4?
I would castle first, although both are fine. but I would castle first. And I like that you're thinking about going d4 in one fell swoop. He's screwing around on the sides of the board, so opening up the center makes perfect sense.
Okay, so now I can just play d4.
Perfect. It's d4. Yeah, this a6. Okay, so d5. He's playing on the flank. And now you have several interesting possibilities. You can play it simple, though.
So what I looked at was just pushing the pawn again and attacking the knight and just doing a trade. Is that
so pushing it forward or taking his pawn?
I was just gonna, well, either work. I looked at d5 first, attacking that knight there.
So the idea is correct, but while you're at it, you might as well open up the center. So taking on e5 with the pawn, same idea, but at least you're winning a pawn, you're opening up the center.
Okay.
The move, if you had gone d5, okay, so whoa, knight g4. He doesn't take your bishop. Now think about which new squares have opened up for that bishop.
Yeah, right there at d5, right?
Beautiful. Pinning his knight, and now look at the knight on g4. It's got only one. Okay, so you can win that knight.
Yeah, I just pushed this pawn up, right? It's got nowhere to go.
Exactly, and if he takes on e5 with his knight, then what do? He probably will do that.
If he takes on e5?
With his knight, yeah.
Oh yeah, I just take with my knight, right?
Exactly, undefended pieces.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hammer that constantly. Undefended pieces all the time, particularly the bishop on d5, bishop on b7. That's a standoff, and you always want to kind of note that down because that can really, really help you. Yeah, he's... Okay, there we go.
So now I just take this bad boy back.
You absolutely do.
Then I'm...
Oh my god, pre-move. Holy smokes. He's trying to intimidate you. All right. You're facing some highly generous opponents today. What comes to mind?
Well, I looked at just taking pawn on f7 with bishop.
So you can take it in one of two ways. Actually, that's good. You can take it with the bishop, but you can also take it with the knight. And either move is fine. Why don't you take with the bishop? Because I want to see, again, speaking of sabotage, I just like to watch you suffer, and I want to see you find the best move after he moves his king. Thank you guys all for the subs. Ratings are refunded, guys. That chess.com is aware of this. Ratings are refunded. Okay, now it's important to deconstruct what's going on here, right? Mm-hmm. What is your instinct? What does your gut tell you?
Well, the first thing I looked at was getting my queen into the equation, bringing her up to d5, protects that hanging knight, and it also gets her into the attack, but I don't know if that's the play.
Okay, but are you sure it protects the knight? Because he's got two attackers on the knight, you've got only one defender. Yeah, so you need to untangle yourself, and you have just the way to do that. Just trade some pieces.
I'm just trading knights then?
Trading knights, right? Because you have no other good square. If you move your knight, then he takes your bishop.
True.
So it's a good idea for you to practice just playing it very simple. Keep simplifying. Can you force another trade?
Yeah, I can just bring my bishop back to d5, right?
Exactly. You're up a piece, and you're still attacking. It's not like you're relinquishing the attack.
Now, do I want to take with the pawn or take with the knight or queen?
Thanks for the subs. All three moves are fine. Follow your instinct here.
Okay, I'm going queen because it attacks his rook.
Good. That's a great move. Okay. Now you want to think about what are the weaknesses that have been created as a result of this move. Like, what squares does that c-pawn no longer defend? Can you get your queen to that square? Move your ass.
Yeah, I don't see what that relinquished.
It's fine. You can move the queen anywhere. These kinds of decisions. The b6 square is what I was referring to.
b6?
Yeah, that square, the pawn on c7 used to control it. Now the pawn is on c6. It's no longer controlling it.
Oh, so just dropping it back and moving it up?
Yes, exactly. And that's something we're going to practice.
Okay.
The famous relinquished squares exercise. I'm surprised you haven't heard of that one.
Just a little rusty. It's been a minute.
We will get you in killer form.
thinking
Okay,
just
keep
deliver a
developing.
check.
Yeah. Keep bringing pieces into the game. Bring the pieces in.
So active square for the. Well, what about moving a? I'm just gonna play this because.
Yeah, a4 is great, opening up the A file.
Okay.
I was also thinking you could bring the rook into the game, rook a to d1, but this is great. If he allows you, okay, now you can take on b5, and it's just going to be made down the A file. Okay, you have checkmate in 2 moves.
Yeah, it starts
Beautiful.
with a queen at a7, right?
Nice. A4 was a great move, actually. Okay, now he's starting to think. I think it's just a tiny bit too late.
Yeah, he only has one spot right now. It's b8 for the mate.
B8 or C7 or A8 or A6. You have 4 different mates to choose from, actually. Very nice.
I'll do this one.
Yeah, very clinical. Okay, so let me invite you to an analysis board. We'll just take a very quick look at these couple of moments in these 2 games. Nice. How do you feel in general? Do you feel confident? Do you feel like there's anything you are particularly nervous about, or like what's going on inside of your head right now, just so I kind of know?
Probably openings is my weakest part at the moment, would be my thought.
Would you be down to take a look at a little bit of that today?
Oh, you take me by the hand and you lead me through whatever you want.
You are a dream student. I just have, okay, wait, complimented you again. I've started to do that a little bit more recently, and I hate that. I'm becoming soft. Okay, let me invite you. My Russian ancestors are not happy. There we go.
Oh wait, hold on. I think I need to exit this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me know if you need me to invite you again. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Normally when a GM invites you, you want to RSVP, but all right, I'll make an exception for you this time.
There it is.
There we go.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, so we can start with the second game. The way that we'll revamp, so F5 is, this is actually your first game. F5 is a very weird move. It's kind of like a king's gambit, except he's playing it with black. It's no good. And this was great. Bishop b5, putting pressure on the pawn. The way you played this was ideal. So knight takes c6, this makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Bishop takes, you win the exchange. Castling is very important. Okay, he literally blunders everything. The one thing I wanted to point out here, so here, the move knight takes d5 is super tempting. But whenever your queen is hanging, that's like a particular type of category. Whenever your queen is hanging, that is a very high pressure situation. That is a precursor to a lot of mistakes. You got to be very careful about how you handle those situations, because here the king can go up to d6.
Yeah.
And the issue with the queen being hanging in general is you almost always need to do something about that. So your hands are really, really tied. Queen has to move, and then black takes on d5. Now, it's not a big deal. Let's say you had blunder that. Where would you go with your queen?
Are we talking about after he takes my knight with his queen?
In this position. So
okay.
you kind of have to prepare for him taking the knight. What would be the best square for the queen in terms of making the job easier? Assuming you've made this mistake. Oh, you actually have a really cool move that doesn't lose any pieces, but I'll show you that afterward. You have a very pretty move. It took me a while to see that one, actually. So remember, the rook is the threshold. So you do want to trade queens here. Can you guarantee that you will trade queens after he takes on d5?
The only place I see is just moving it down to like d3 and just preparing for it.
Exactly. d3 or h5. That's it. All that I had in mind. Just tying the queen to the knight, trading. And what would be the next move here? Get the bishop out, Charlie.
I was thinking a pawn move, but I don't know where you'd move except delivering a check on c4.
Well, then the king takes.
Yeah, but
remember
then
that
the king keeper. That's all I was thinking.
It would, but you don't have a queen. If you had a queen, that would be great. The problem is this is an endgame. So remember that in the endgame, the rules don't really change. You still need to do the same stuff that you would want to do in the middle game, i.e. develop your pieces. You're not going to win this game with these pieces of crap just lounging around on A1 and C1. So get them out, just like you would in a middle game.
So you just develop, you just push that pawn up D3.
Absolutely. D3, then bishop B3, and rook E1. So I'm going to put the emphasis in general, having as many of your pieces doing something as possible. If you just follow that simple rule, things are not going to be that bad. Like, that's going to eliminate getting crushed, basically. And in the end game, you do exactly the same thing. It's even more important to have all of your pieces playing because you don't have a lot of them left. So does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Perfect. And now the second game. So let me see. How do I paste this one? Okay, I'm going to have to re-invite you to another board.
Oh, good.
I mean, you're getting 2 invitations now. This is your lucky day. All right. Turbo. Just invited. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay, they want to see the... Okay, I'll show the cool move later. The cool move was knight takes c7. It was not, like, nothing to write home about. Okay, so here, h3, h6, a6, and you open up the center, right? Your opponent is screwing around. You open up the center. And now d takes c5. So you wanted initially to play d5. The problem with this move is that it closes up the center. And black does not have to take your bishop. Let's say black just drops the knight back to b8. Okay, you have to move the bishop, right? And black goes d6. When you have a lead in development, as you already know, you want to open up the center. And when you got this structure, the center is very closed, which means that even though you have more pieces developed, that loses its effectiveness, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So that's why the move d5. It also closes down your bishop. So d takes c5 does the same thing, but had he taken your bishop, the center is a lot more open, and you have a very, very nice move here. Very natural move, accumulating the pressure in the center.
Yeah, just pushing the pawn up, right?
You can do that. That's one way. Can you play a piece move, attacking the queen?
Oh, yeah, just developing to the d5 outpost.
Exactly. He's got to go back. Now, where do you put the bishop?
Now the bishop just goes to f4, right?
Bingo. He's got to go. You're attacking this pawn. Now tear this shit apart. The move you wanted to play earlier.
The move I wanted to play earlier?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty vague. What move did I want to play earlier?
Yeah, there were several. That's an extremely helpful hint. What are you talking about? Earlier in this game.
Oh, I'm just pushing the pawn.
Absolutely. E5, and you open up the file, and he's absolutely busted here. So very simple, following the principles, and black's just going to get demolished here. So that was possible continuation. Sorry, he went b5. He went knight g4, bishop d5, bishop b7, h3, and there's only one other thing that I wanted to show you. After he took, then everything was very simple. He has a interesting move, h5. This is called I think a fishing pole trap. This isn't actually a trap in this position, but that's the basic idea. So what is the meaning of the move h5? Well, basically the idea is, if you take, do you see what kind of could happen here? Let's say you dropped your knight to h2, nonchalantly. Black is already not winning, but it's unpleasant.
Yeah, so now he's just going to bring his queen over to the h file, right?
Exactly. Now, it's very hard to defend against checkmate. White has only one defense here, luckily. Can you find it?
It's trading queens, right? No, that wouldn't do it.
Yeah, because queen takes h2 isn't going to be mate.
Yeah. Is it just bringing the bishop up to f4?
Bingo. Only move. Without this move, it would have been checkmate. But the way to just avoid all of this is to play knight g5, stopping the queen from coming to h4. So just wanted to raise your awareness that when there is a piece on g4 and you are attacking it with h3, your opponent may play this move. And there you have to evaluate whether or not you can take the knight or the bishop, whatever is on g4, and make sure that the pathway to h4 is covered up.
Okay, makes sense.
So that's basically it. Everything else was extremely smooth. Okay, perfect. So I think we can divide this next segment into 2 sections. We can talk a little bit about openings. And I want to sort of start talking about building up positional understanding and do a little bit of a drill that involves that, looking at the position perhaps in ways that you're not quite used to. Does that sound good? And then after that, we can jump back in for a couple games.
Sounds good to me, man.
Perfect. Let me just pull up my notes and just got a couple of positions that I have here. One moment. So let's begin with some review. We had looked at this position many moons ago. And this position is what I would call a gateway into positional understanding. So I'm going to paste this position in a moment, and let me know if you can see it, because it always glitches. This is, of course, a game between two Russians, because what other game would I ever show you?
Yeah, it's the only games that matter.
And part of what I brought with me home to Charlotte is a book called it's simply called The Path to Mastery. Not even The Path to Chess Mastery, The Path to Mastery. Wow. I'm translating. This is written in 1970 in the Soviet Union. This is like the ultimate Russian school of chess. So some of the positions I show you are going to be from this book. It's one of my cherished possessions.
Yeah, that sounds like a crazy book.
Well, the funny thing is, it's written by a military sergeant who was also a chess master. And he talks about basically every facet of chess improvement. And you would only find this in like a Soviet book. Some of the chapter names, I shit you not. By the way, the table of contents in Russian books is always at the end of the book. Okay, get this. Blah, blah, blah. The hygiene of a chess player. My stream knows this because I read from it. The hygiene of a chess player. The athletic regime of a chess player increases the chances of success. That's the name of the chapter. Various roads to the heights of chess Olympus. On the path to mastery of an army chess player. So literally he talks about absolutely everything. And he talks about actual chess facets. So anyway, sorry to rant about it. But it's an interesting little relic.
Have you been hitting the gym in response to this? Are you getting kind of fucking jacked right now?
I don't even leave the gym in my apartment building. I mean, between the treadmill and the weights, I'm basically playing chess on the treadmill.
Beautiful.
But that's what this guy would have recommended. So, okay. This position is going to help us review some of the very basic positional content. What is positional chess in general? What do I want you to master? Positional chess can be summarized in very simple terms. Positional chess just means improving piece placement. The art of finding the best spots for your pieces. And there's a lot of sub concepts, right? That's not literally all there is to it, but that's what everything is essentially boils down to. Okay, and that's what I want to make you an absolute wizard at. So let's take a look at this position. Do you see it on yours? Yes. Okay, let me see. Yeah, you do. Perfect. It is white to play. This game is from 1945. First, I'm not going to tell you anything. I want you to try to understand what's going on here. White to move.
All right, well, the first thing I looked at was just getting queen up. Going to g3 seems like an active square. It threatens a checkmate potential on g7 by getting the bishop over to h6.
Mm-hmm.
It also protects the bishop still in case there is an attack on it.
Okay. Pretty good thinking.
The e4 pawn is defended only by the knight, but the knight can't be taken because it's still got the b2 pawn protecting, so that all looks pretty good.
Okay, interesting. So we'll talk about what black should do in a second. Let's also practice a little bit of visualization, calculating in your head. If in this position, and I'm not going to make this move, black takes on e4 with his knight.
Yeah, I just saw that, yeah.
White actually wins. White wins there. Calculate further. You take black's knight, and black takes your knight with his queen. In that position in your head, I want you to find the move.
So queen took back knight on e4.
Yes.
White to play.
Mm-hmm. White to play and win a piece. Not the easiest move to see, but you got to think about how the position has changed. What is now possible, which used to be impossible. And you know which square you have to target. The move is f6. I don't expect, I'm muted. I don't expect Charlie to see it, but we're going to make him better at visualization. That's going to be super important. I want him to be able to calculate 2-3 move lines in his head. This is going to be torturous at first, but trust me, this will pay off. Anything coming to that genius mind?
There's a couple cobwebs on here I got to dust off, it seems. Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
Oh, and look, I'm completely understand this is going to be challenging at first. So what you need to target here is that g7 pawn.
Yeah, I see. But instead of targeting with the bishop, you target with the pawn.
Bingo, f6. And if bishop takes f6?
Then I'm... so bishop f6. Don't I just then slide over to h6?
Well, but then you're not threatening anything on g7. You can actually just take that bishop. Because pawn, why can't pawn take the rook?
Because it's pinned right now.
Because it's pinned, right. So as soon as you put the queen on g3, you're like, aha, this pawn is pinned. So knight takes e4, knight e4, queen e4, f6. Double attack, bishop f6, rook f6, and white is up with these.
Yeah, okay.
Very good. And I'm sorry to torture you with these lines. I'm going to do a lot of that because I want you to start reliably visualizing 3-4 move lines by sort of the start of PogChamps. But here's the thing that black can do. Black can just slide his king over to h8. And this takes the sting completely out of the move queen g3 because now there's no longer a pin.
Yeah.
And would it make sense if I said that white isn't really attacking? There's no way to lift the rook. Everything is awkward. The e4 pawn is now actually hanging. White starts to crumble a little bit. Does that part make sense?
Yeah.
So this is a great example of a position in which attacking your opponent's king just isn't going to do the trick. You need to find an alternate approach to the position. And in order to do that, the concept of weak squares comes into play. Can you spot a very weak square in black's position? And I remind you, by definition, a weak square is a square that cannot be defended by a pawn. There's one juicy central square. If only you could get a piece there.
Yeah, isn't it d5?
It is. What would you like to get to d5?
Would putting the knight on that outpost be the play?
Absolutely, and I like that you referenced the outpost. Unfortunately, you can't do that immediately, though, because Black's knight is going to have something to say about that. But here comes the key idea.
Am I finding the key idea?
You are absolutely finding the key idea.
Okay.
You are going to find it. I have no doubt at all. Or we're never going to have a lesson again. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so we need to get the knight off of that d5 square. So
Get the hell out of there.
are we just chasing it down with the bishop going to g5?
Exactly. Bishop g5 is the brilliant move. Because the knight is pinned. He cannot move.
Right.
And whatever black does, in the game Rudakovsky, black played rook a c8. Smyslov, he played, I think, h6. Smyslov takes on f6, and he slams the knight into the outpost on d5. Amazing square. And now white has complete dominance over the bishop.
How do you capitalize from this position, though? Like, where's the line go from here?
So basically, and actually, let me look up exactly what black did play. No, black played rook f to e8, sorry. Rook f to e8. That's a great question. We're first going to take a look at how the game ended, because the game ends very, very quickly. Essentially, the idea is only now to attack black's king. Because you have this amazing knight, you've eliminated counterplay, the e4 pawn is safe. Now our hands are untied for a kingside attack. But first of all, queen takes c2 seems to be a free pawn for black, but it's actually not. Can you figure out why not? And the concept of tactical awareness comes into play here. This knight on d5 is wearing a lot of hats, and there's a particular square that it now wants to get to.
So I see two options. There's just taking the bishop on f6, delivers the check, and he has to take with the pawn that opens up the g file. I don't know like where to capitalize there, but
right. Sorry, go ahead.
And then I also noticed there's a fork potential at c7 with that knight.
Very good. That is actually the correct observation. Now, remember that the queen is the worst defender of a square, because queens can be very easily chased away. Get rid of this damn queen.
Just going to c1 with the rook.
Bingo. Queen has to move. Forkovich, and you win the exchange. White is better. White is basically winning. So pretty simple. Knight d5. Now, how does the actual game end? Black plays the move bishop to d8. He moves his bishop away. Smyslov decides now to defend the pawn with c3. b5. Black tries to make something happen. b3. Very patient, typical Russian move. First, get the queen out of c4. Get freaking queen out of there so I can attack like I am supposed to. Yeah, b3, queen c5, king h1. Black goes rook c8. Now, is black actually threatening anything with this move?
No, it's still defended by the knight.
It's defended by the knight. Do you see how freaking amazing this knight is? It is both defending and attacking. Now, Smyslov wins the game with a very typical attacking technique. You like this particular plan, and it's a perfect time to do it.
Is it the initial one?
Say that again?
Is it the initial one by sliding up to g3?
You're close, but not with the queen. With what? This is a plan that allows you to bring a piece into the attack.
Oh, are we doing a rook lift?
We are absolutely doing a rook f3.
Oh, okay.
And black tries to hide on h8 with his king. But that's just about as effective as me, I don't know, hiding under a desk when you're about to get blasted by a huge bomb. And Smyslov now plays another really nice move. He plays f6. And the point of this move is that you intercept the bishop. Where do you want this queen to go?
h4.
Exactly. So we intercept the bishop, and black plays g takes f6. Smyslov goes queen h4. Look how methodically he brings pieces into the attack. Rook g8. And very symbolically, the knight is the piece that basically wins the game. Knight takes f6, threatening checkmate. Rook g7. Now another very nice move, rook g3. Distracting the rook from g7. If black were to take, then what happens?
No, no, it's just checkmate.
Checkmate on, yeah. So bishop takes f6 was played. There's only 2 more moves in the game. Now, whoops, sorry. Now black has to defend the rook with rook c to g8. Is this sort of making sense so far?
Yeah.
And now Smyslov plays the second move that I want you basically to find. What often happens when you are attacking is, as we discussed many times, you develop a kind of tunnel vision. Because what do you see here? What seems to be the square that you're going to win the game on? What are you attacking with all your might?
It looks like we'll win at g7.
Exactly. But that's an illusion. And one of the things that you have to start doing when you are attacking is continually look at the whole board. Because sometimes your opponent is so invested in defending a particular square that there is another pawn or another square that just becomes really weak. And you can deploy the remaining pieces and infiltrate through that particular square. And that's exactly what he does.
Yeah, so right, I mean, he can't take with the rook right now because it's pinned to the king. So you just get the next rook into the attack, right, by going to like f1 and bringing it up.
So you're very close. Think about how can this rook infiltrate as quickly as possible? There is a pawn that is basically indefensible. Rook f1 is almost correct. There's just a faster way of doing this.
Oh, is it d1?
Bingo. Sorry, that was a mouse slip. Rook e1 would be kind of dumb. Rook d1 is the move because you're just going to take the pawn on d6.
Yeah.
And let's make a random move for black. What is the actual now checkmating sequence?
I believe it's rook d8, take on d8 with queen.
Excellent.
Yeah, okay.
And now just this is mate. You can also, by the way, you can sack the queen on g7. And now go rook d8. This is kind of a cool mate. So
yeah, I definitely didn't see that one.
Yeah, but I mean, no need to play with fire. If you see a simple mate, you want to go for a simple mate. So that basically is key positional concept number one. You want to get a piece to a square, and you want to continually start, okay, where does this piece belong? Where does this piece belong? How can I reposition this piece to that square? And oftentimes there will be an opponent's piece that is in the way. And you want to try to get that opponent's piece out of the way. Okay, that's sort of key gateway concept number one. Now concept number two. We're going to take a look at a segment from one of my games. This won't be long. It'll just be sort of one position. The concept of trades, right? And if you remember when we first started training, it was a very dark period of my life. I was having a great time. And then, of course, they assigned you to me. And everything kind of went downhill from there. But one of the few fond moments was to watch your aversion to trades, right? You've gotten so much better at that. But do you remember when you just didn't want to fucking trade anything?
I remember those beautiful days.
The dark ages of it was back in the days of the bubonic plague and yeah, I mean, it was just a horrible time.
Just a young nubile boy back then.
It was those times. Okay, so of course you can use trades to your advantage, and oftentimes what you have to do in a position is identify your opponent's strongest piece. This is sometimes a hard process, sometimes an easy process. We'll look at an introductory position where this is easy. And then you need to devise a way to trade that piece. Sometimes, and this is the important part, you need to use tactics to achieve a positional goal. You need to use tactics to trade a particular piece, if that makes sense. So a good illustration is one of my old games. You are going to be playing black here, so flip the board. I want you to go through this process. I want you to A, identify white's strongest piece, and B, find the quickest way to trade it using tactics. Not an easy position, but I think you can do it. Wait, did I just encourage him? Damn it.
Okay. This is child's play, Daniel.
Oh, this is...
Child's play.
You were doing this when you were in your mom's womb, basically.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, this is too easy.
This freaking... This is an insult, actually. I'm sorry I'm giving you this position, really. It's... So what is the strongest piece? What is white's most annoying? And you can use your eyes here, just visually.
His strongest piece is the knight on d5 right now.
His strongest piece is the knight on d5. So you would love to get rid of the knight. That knight constitutes white's entire advantage. This is the hard part. So take your time.
Oh, wait, I see it. Is it a I'm dropping knight to e7,
Holy
he
fucking
takes...
shit.
Yeah, there we go. Then
You got it.
You
Frickin' got it. Knight e7. Temporary sacrifice, queen c5 check, and then you win back the knight. And the position is equal. It's a queen endgame. And the knight has been gotten rid of. Nice. Now, let's imagine that black had instead tried to prepare this move by playing queen to e6. Now flip the board and face white. Another positional task, identify black's biggest weakness and pile up on it. And this shows why queen e6 is a very key mistake. So scour the board. When I say weakness, it can be a pawn, it can be a piece, it can be anything. Evaluate each particular region of the board. See if there's anything that seems to be very flimsy.
I mean, I could slide my queen all the way to h5, attacking his knight.
You're close. That's actually not a bad move. The knight has a hard time moving because if knight e7, then white to play and win.
Yeah, don't I just... I'm just going like straight down to e8, right?
Bingo, winning the knight because of the pin. But that's possible. But another possibility is to attack this pawn on f6. Why do I see this pawn? Because this pawn cannot be defended by either of its neighbors. So by definition, it's a weak pawn. How can you attack it?
I attack it by moving queen to f3.
Bingo. And you see that the pawn cannot be defended.
Yep.
Notice also the pawn on g3. Something I want you to file away in that mental Rolodex of yours, which of course is, you know, it's almost full with chess knowledge, but just one little factoid. When the knight is on the same file as a pawn, and there are two squares between a knight and a pawn, both of which are on the same file, that is a very bad situation for the knight. So here we have that situation. There are two squares, I'm highlighting in blue, between the g-pawn and the knight, right? Mm-hmm. And do you see why this is a horrible situation for the knight? I mean, pardon my French. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because it can't move forward. The pawn defends both of its squares.
Yeah, as they say in French, the knight is cock-blocked. It wants to go to f4. No. Okay, no. That was just horrible. I just said the knight is cock-blocked. If I may use that expression.
I get you.
Ever since I learned that in 4th grade last year, I cannot stop using it. So the knight cannot go to f4, cannot go to h4. Just file that situation away. Make a mental note. Okay, so does this make perfect sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do a freaking ton of various positional exercises. Let's just do one last one that kind of bridges the gap between positional chess and tactics. Then we'll talk a little openings, and then maybe a couple more games. So,
sure.
Thank you, Alexander Mirko, for the prime. Okay. One of my blitz games. It is white to move in this position. And part of what we're going to build up is not only the ability to evaluate trades and prove pieces, but also the ability to sense when you can basically launch a very quick attack. Like noticing, okay, a position that looks very peaceful, right, this doesn't look like anything is going on, but in reality, white is only a couple of moves from winning the game. I want you to try to figure out why that is and what move white can make here. This is going to be tricky, but try to make as many observations as you can.
Well, I can't trade knights here because I take knight with knight, he takes with pawn, and now my queen's being attacked, so that's definitely not the play.
Yeah, right. That opens up the file. It's equal, by the way. This is not bad for white, but it's clearly not, the alpha move.
I was looking at getting queen on kingside for an attack by going to g5, but I don't see where I'd continue that attack.
Right, and I remind you of one key thing. In terms of the queen's involvement in the attack, usually when the queen is all alone in an attack, it's not always that effective. That's like, Napoleon Bonaparte, going himself to the front lines. The queen is like the general, and she needs to be used in very specific ways. Oftentimes, as the sort of support, as the leader of the attack, the queen can be way behind in your territory, like on g2, and doing just the same thing as it can be on g5. But we'll talk about that later. Okay, good call on that one. Yeah, I don't know what's got into me. Very French. So what seems to be annoying you about this position? Which one of black's pieces is...
it's the e5 knight.
Right, but you don't want to take it. So you want to find an alternative way to chase that knight away. What comes to mind?
Well, I'd have to move the pawn on f2, so I'd have to evacuate the knight first.
Bingo.
I guess putting the knight on... d4 doesn't seem terrible.
Exactly. Centralizing the knight while you're at it. That is the move that I played. Very nice. Knight d4.
Okay.
So I call this the wish list method. Some positions, you want to just ask yourself, well, what the hell do I want to do? If I could have anything I wanted, whatever, for Christmas, and that could be anything, a piece on a particular square, what is it? Because sometimes that's closer to reality than you might think. So black is a GM, by the way. This is, I was white and I was playing a GM. Knight e to d7 was his move. Continue. He's trying to preempt me, but that doesn't mean I don't want to do what I wanted to do earlier.
By playing the pawn up to f4.
Absolutely. f4. He goes knight to c5. Keep it going. His king is very weak, right? There's no fianchettoed bishop. You must open files.
Yeah, I'm pushing this f pawn again to f5, right?
Exactly. If he plays g takes f5, find the winning move for white. Don't rush. Again, as soon as a move like this is made, how has the position changed? What new avenues are available to your pieces?
Yeah, now I have the entire g file.
Yep. Queen g5 check.
Yeah.
Wins the knight. Exactly. Good. So bishop c8, f takes g6, h takes g6, and now basically the critical moment. Or sorry, he plays f takes g6. He took with the other pawn. And now I'll give you a hint. There is a sacrifice that leads to a devastating attack.
Is it sacking the knight d4 to f5?
Very interesting move. And actually, that's probably not bad at all. But after g takes f5, you will find that it's actually not that easy to continue. Because if you give a check here, right, that's what I assume you wanted?
That's what I was looking at, yeah.
Then the king can slide over to f7.
It protects the knight. Gotcha.
It protects the knight, and here's the problem if you play e takes f5. Why is this bad conceptually? Like this pawn, right, what's bad about it?
It can't be defended by other... Well, it can be defended by the g pawn.
Right, it's not about the pawn, but you actually want this pawn to be gone from the board, right? Because that would open the f file.
Gotcha.
So be very careful about that, right? I would call it the umbrella method. It's like your opponent is using the pawn as an umbrella, sheltering his king. Okay, so your right area of the board, of course. Think of another sacrifice.
Oh, the only other stack I see is the rook taking...
Absolutely. You draw the king in, but now the key move, and black resigned after this move. The king wants to evacuate back to g7. You allow this, I chop your nuts off.
Yeah, so you just want to slide the queen all the way to h6, right?
Bingo. And he resigned, because look at the king. I mean, the king is caught in the crossfire. Rook f1, queen g7. This is all checkmate. And this is the kind of position I want you to look at, and you don't even have to calculate anything. It should be clear to you that white has overwhelming threats against black's king. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So very quickly, let's say rook f8, continue.
At this...
And a painful little exercise, finding checkmate.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I know you love.
I'm still sliding the rook over to f1, right?
You are.
Check? Okay.
King, if king e7.
That's bringing the queen down to g7.
Nice, mate in 2. And if king e5, that is the only move. There's many ways to finish the king off. I want you to find one of them. Thank you guys all for the subs. I'll thank you guys later. I'm trying to keep the flow of the lesson going. Thank you, X-Power Slave, and everybody for the support. Hope you guys are having a good time. Well, I'm certainly having a great time watching Charlie suffer. And in such positions, it's important to apply basic logic. Checks, captures, threats. You want to keep drawing the king deeper and deeper into your territory.
Do I just deliver a check at f3 with that knight?
Whoops, I don't know what that was. Very solid move. That basically forces black to give up the rook. Yeah. But you can actually sacrifice the knight. You can use it as kind of a mousetrap. Because if the king appears on d4, then there's going to be a checkmate. What you need to do is compel the king to go to d4. Give a check, force it there. Remember to look at retreating moves.
Oh, so am I just bringing the queen back to the 5th rank at g5?
Exactly. King takes d4, and now the mate is elementary. My dear Watson.
Is the one you're talking about just bringing the queen all the way to d2?
Whoa, but now the king evacuates.
Yeah.
That queen is fulfilling a crucial role. So you have to do it with another piece. You have a... Oh my god. You have a very pretty checkmating pattern.
It's just the rook then, huh?
It's the rook. Yeah, knight has to cover and then it's made. The move that I saw, you could also give this check. Forking knight and the queen. C takes b5. Check. King has to take. And now rook e1. And this sets up... This is not a check, but look at how safe white's king is. This sets up a discovered mate, which is completely inevitable. This is actually just checkmate. Anyways, that's just me being stupid. That you absolutely don't have to do that. Rook d1 is the simplest.
Okay.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes
And so
sense.
the key, right, what we're going to work on is while we're working on positional chess, I'm also going to try to help you develop a sense for when you can transition from quiet play to an attack. Here, you notice that, the knight on e5 is annoying. Wait a second, I can push this pawn all the way to f5 by force. Because black's got pieces, kind of like bowling pins, that you can just bowl over with your pawn. And then that basically transforms into a sacrifice. Great. So we'll do friggin' shit tons of these exercises. They're going to be in your nightmares. But let's switch to openings. Now, I'm going to give you the choice between... We have to look at white and black openings.